What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and the country is in big trouble. Well, in more than one ways, if you've been watching my channel. But take a look at this. Hakeem Jeffries, leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, says in response to what leader of the Republicans just said, Kevin McCarthy, that the Republicans' debt limit strategy is flirting with default, that we could default on our debt based on if they can't agree, we could have the first ever default. And remember, if we default, financial markets will collapse, stock market will collapse, Social Security payments will be delayed, SNAP payments, government payments, pensions payments, pretty much anything having to do with money coming from the government will be at best delayed because the government won't have any money to send out. Take a listen to what he has to say here.
Our next guest says he's looking to work with Republicans to come to a resolution. Joining us now, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, New York Congressman. Leader Jeffries, it's great to have you on once again.
Good morning. Great to be back.
These are some of the same players from when you got all those votes. If I were you, I'd add up all those to 15 times a majority. You had like thousands of votes when it finally came down.
That would be correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we saw
apparently 3,000. Yeah. You want to say apparently 3,179 votes, but who's counting?
Oh my! You had the number ready to go. That's perfect. So we know that Speaker McCarthy and Congressman McHenry hope springs eternal for getting votes, but we can see that there are sometimes votes that you're counting that might not be there when you need them. Do you have confidence in what Congressman McHenry just said? Do you think they can pass something in the next couple of weeks?
Well, that remains to be seen. Right now, all we have is a speech and talking points, but we haven't seen the legislative proposal. The first thing that we need to do is to make sure that we cleanly raise the debt ceiling to avoid a default on our nation's debt for the first time in our history. It would have catastrophic consequences. Even the flirtation with a default is going to hurt everyday Americans. It risks raising car payments. It risks raising home mortgage payments. It risks raising student loan debt payments. It will hurt everyday Americans and crash our economy at a very fragile time, particularly in the immediate aftermath of the regional banking crisis. We will have a conversation about the types of future investments that we should be making in the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people, but it should be done through a budget process and through the appropriations process, not in a hostage-taking situation.
Right, but we know that there are some issues in terms of where the debt is, and you've got one side that is definitely taking this position. You've seen that they are, and you just outlined what your position is with the clean debt rate. So we know that we're here, and you say you do want to negotiate. Here's a quote just out of an op-ed today. The Speaker's requests are hardly radical, just returning to the federal government the spending levels of the bad old days, fiscal 2022. These are reasonable limits, the 1% annually over 10 years, and reasonable limits, and that a reasonable negotiation, which is what Speaker McCarthy is asking for, is not outlandish with President Biden. It wouldn't be crazy just to talk, just to see if there's something we can do for both parties, for the United States, for the American people, to try to talk about how to do this when one side is definitely wants to do it that way. Leader?
Well, here's what we're dealing with. I think Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump in 2019, Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House, have all made clear that when it comes to raising the debt ceiling, we shouldn't have partisanship, we shouldn't have showmanship, we shouldn't have gamesmanship, because the debt ceiling is not a forward-looking vehicle. It has nothing to do with authorizing spending into the future. The debt ceiling relates to paying bills that the Congress has already incurred. That is why the full faith and credit of the United States is at risk because of the threatening of a default. Separate and apart from the debt ceiling, which should be cleanly raised. We did it 3 times without fanfare during the Trump administration, and House Democrats helped to do that each and every time without engaging in a hostage-taking situation. Though we may have disagreed with some of President Trump's spending priorities, certainly we did fiercely disagree with some of his tax policies, which exploded the deficit and didn't benefit everyday Americans. But on the debt ceiling, we recognized that we needed to be responsible. And all we're asking extreme MAGA Republicans in the House right now is not to hold the economy hostage, but to be responsible. We can have a discussion about the budget. There's a process for that. President Biden released his budget. The House Republican budget is still in the witness protection program, Joe. Unfortunately, it's hiding. It's missing in action. No one has seen it. It's not on the House floor. It hasn't even been introduced. But we can have that discussion once the Republicans are willing to show the American people their plan.
So, leader of the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, says that we're flirting with a default here. Make no mistake, we are. We are. This comes after Republican leader Kevin McCarthy said here just hours ago that Biden will threaten Social Security and Medicare and will, quote, bumble into the first default in our nation's history if he doesn't negotiate raising the debt ceiling with the Republicans, Kevin McCarthy said. Yeah. And right now, Biden is taking the stance that there will be no negotiations with the Republicans. He has not met with Kevin McCarthy since February 1st, which they really didn't even negotiate, from what I understand. They had very preliminary talks and said they would meet again. And since then, Kevin McCarthy has not been able to meet with Biden again over this. And he's been actually pretty furious about this. And we're getting closer and closer and closer to a default. You can't make this stuff up. It's actually ridiculous, no matter who's to blame here. And I actually kind of gotta, I don't know. I don't want to pick sides here, but I want to side with the Republicans here, saying why hasn't Biden met with him? But I can kind of see why Biden hasn't met with him. It's probably because the Republicans haven't released their budget. They haven't released what they want to cut yet. But the Republicans said they really wanted to do that behind closed doors. Biden said he didn't want to do it behind closed doors. So I think what we're going to see here is the Republicans are going to release it publicly and try to vote on it. That's probably not going to pass because they haven't negotiated on it. So the Republicans are just going to kind of probably try to strong arm it, pass it through. That probably won't pass. And we're going to be dangerously close to a default here. If this is how it plays out. I tend to be pretty spot on with a lot of these things. Again, I'm just trying to tell the future here, so we'll see what happens here. But yeah, again, Republicans and Democrats having a very hard time negotiating, and whose future's at stake? We the people. We the people. Yeah, it's almost like two completely different countries trying to negotiate, not the United States of America. We're not even close to being united. You would think that we're like arch enemies here, not the same people. It's just absolutely just astounding that we can't even talk to each other. We can't even talk to each other. You would think that we're like, the Boston Tea Party and we're talking to England, our arch enemies, and we're like getting ready to, have a civil war with them or something. Like, we can't even talk about our nation's debt and paying our own bills and stuff. What is this? It's absolutely flabbergasting here. And we're not even like close to another election. It's not like, oh, we have another election around the corner. We can't do this because, we got an election coming up. We're like a year and a half away from that. Like, If this doesn't frustrate you like it frustrates me, this is absolutely ridiculous. And this you kind of make you wonder why nothing gets done in Congress. This is why. And then you kind of think, oh, we need change in Congress. We need change in Congress. We need term limits in Congress, which we do. But really, these guys come up for reelection every 2 years. There's your chance to vote them out. And the problem is that 95% of these fools in Congress get reelected every time. 95% of them get reelected every single time. So we have a chance to vote people out. Republicans, Democrats, Republicans, independents, the very few independents that are actually there in Congress. And 95% of them get reelected every single time. That's the problem here. And it's just like every single time, even the people who you think are like the craziest people in Congress, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you think, oh, for sure that person's going to get voted out. For sure that person's going to get out. For sure that person's going to get voted out. And they get reelected. And you're like, what on earth is going on here? Like, there's no way that person's going to get reelected. Oh, they got reelected. Oh, they got reelected. And you're like, what on earth is going on? Like, you can't make this stuff up, guys. It's absolutely unbelievable. And then it's like, it takes them 6 months to even negotiate over paying our bills. They can't even pay our country's bills. Imagine if we ran our household like that. Like, oh, we got to pay our electric bill. All right, we're going to take 6 months to negotiate with the electric company over paying that bill. What do you think would happen to your electricity company, to your electric bill? Yeah, your electric would be shut off like 5 months ago. This is how the U.S. government runs its country. The only advantage they have is they get to print money. They get to print money. And it's just like, they're damn lucky that we're basically considered like the number one country in the world. And we have the U.S. dollar, which is really being devalued right now because of this tomfoolery, that we've been doing for years here. And other countries are really starting to catch up to us as our dollar gets devalued because of this BS that we've been playing for years. But it's an absolute just travesty that we can't run our country like an actual business and get some like-minded, sensible people there in Congress to actually all right, let's try to trim some of the fat. Let's try to also take care of the people. Let's try to run this like a sensible business and actually talk with each other and see how we can run things properly. But nope, it takes them 6 months to even talk about paying bills. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything. I know it's absolutely crazy. Make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. Click the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos here. And thanks for liking and sharing them here. Here's some videos you should watch next. Here is Kevin McCarthy talking about the massive new bill they want to pass here. And here is a video about U.S. boots on the ground in Taiwan. That's right. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.